the biggest thing about this essay, specifically the institutional action essay, is own up to your mistakes. What'd you learn from it? How'd you move forward? Mission accepted, season 3. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing excellent. I'm excited to jump into your application, see what led you to be a successful applicant to medical school. I want to hear with your own words. Why do you think you were successful applying to medical school?
Not to, pat you too much on your back, but I mean, all
No,
the
please do.
content
Please do.
that you put out. I think I was in the inaugural class of Application Academy, so that I mean was great for me. But yeah, it just everything you preach, being able to share my story. I mean, I have good stats. I don't think that's the reason that I got in per se. I think I was just able to, and everything I wrote, just show why I have this passion and just not even just for medicine, but all the other parts of my life too.
All right, so you're an academy grad. For someone who doesn't know Application Academy, what would you call it?
I think you've described it as maybe a boot camp before.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, take through the application cycle with a cohort. Essentially, there's a bunch of lectures, kind of that are interactive if you want to go, or they're recorded if you want to do it afterwards. I usually had to watch recordings just based on how my work was. But you get direct feedback on a lot of your stuff and just kind of walks you through all parts of the application.
Yeah, that is it. We're changing it moving forward. It's going to be even bigger and better than ever. So I'm excited for what's to come. But I'm excited that it hopefully helped you tell your story and gets you into medical school. So let's go ahead and take a look at your application in 1 second. Just some nuts and bolts from you. How many times did you apply? How many interviews? All of that fun stuff.
Just had to apply once, thankfully. I got 3 interviews. 2 acceptances from those, and then a wait list that I didn't get off of.
Awesome. All right. And all with an institutional action, as we'll see.
Yeah,
so,
I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, let's take a look. So the first thing I love looking at here is when you submitted the application, you submitted bright and early, which is great. Obviously not the most important thing ever to submit first day, second day, third day, but usually within June is a good idea. You submitted nice and early, which is awesome. So demographic information, I'll redact it out. Did not mark yourself as disadvantaged and wasn't classified as disadvantaged from the AAMC. And when I usually say, hey, no red flags, that's good, you do have one. What happened here?
Yeah, so I think it was my junior year. I was taking a online like 3-week course, a statistics course for my major. I was doing a lot of other stuff, working, shadowing, so I was busy. I was in like one of those class-wide group chats where, we talk about, the class and assignments due and all that kind of stuff. And usually I'm someone who will, if someone's asking a question, needs help with a concept, like, and I know it, I'll, help them. Someone posted a question and I answered the question and just kind of like went about my day. Turns out it was from our first exam. So our exams, since it was online, it was open for like a 12-hour period or something, and you can take it whenever. And I'm pretty sure we didn't all have the same question. So I don't think I actually had that question, and I hadn't taken the exam yet. So I didn't even think that someone would have posted a question from the exam in that group chat.
Yeah.
But turns out they did. So I got an email a few days after submitting it saying that I was like flagged. And then I kind of went back and realized what was happening. So I pled guilty to it just because if you read our policy, that is academic dishonesty. Yeah. So I pled guilty and I had it expunged from my record. Like officially it's not on there. Like if I didn't put it in the application, I don't think that medical schools would have known about it, but I still put it in there just because it's, if you read the directions, you're supposed to.
Okay.
And my advisor at like my university said that. So I had a committee letter. So they basically said that they were going to mention it. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I'll write this little essay here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your committee would throw you under the bus if it was expunged.
Yeah, I was a little like just confused or annoyed about that at first, but then I was like, you know what, it's integrity is a part of it being a physician. So
Yeah,
I didn't really fight back on that.
yeah,
So I was fine with exposing it.
yeah, and ultimately several interviews and several acceptances later, it didn't hurt. And the reason it didn't hurt, I think, is because
Yeah,
you owned up to it.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, we'll see. I applied to a lot of schools. Only got 3 interviews, so I'm sure there were some schools that like they saw it and just crossed my name off. But
Yeah.
it only came up once in my interview, and it was the interview at the school I'm at now.
Okay.
And once I explained, you know, what I just said, the interviewer was like, "Oh, that's not something I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Let's move on."
Yeah. The biggest thing about this essay, specifically the institutional action essay, is own up to your mistakes. What'd you learn from it? How'd you move forward? So good job with
Yeah.
that. No other red flags there, which is wonderful. And then we'll get into your grades. And we're starting off with a C in pre-calc. Oh, no. How did you ever get into
Yeah.
med school? So mostly A's, a mix of B's, that math.
Yeah, so that's that class that I got the
Okay.
institution in.
Yeah.
The punishment or whatever. I got a 0 on the exam, and they reduced my grade by another letter grade.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
yeah, frustrating. I probably would have done well in it if not for that.
Yeah. So overall, just looking at stats, obviously grades not a huge issue overall. Science wise, it's funny. Usually these are flipped, where the all other
Yeah,
are higher than science, but for you different, and then solid overall GPA. Then we get to MCAT score. MCAT score also solid. What led you to a good MCAT score there?
I used Next Step or Blueprint.
Blueprint
Yeah, it's
now. Yeah.
Blueprint now.
Yeah.
I used their like self-guided course with all the videos and
Mhm.
stuff. It was very easy for me to set up a plan because they have like this online calendar and you just
Yeah.
move around everything that you need to do. It's their user interface person is really good.
Yes, they are.
Um, so yeah, that was really nice. I used all the AAMC material kind of right leading up to the exam. Um, I took it during COVID though, so it was a little different with
Okay.
having to wear masks, and I took the short one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was better or worse for me because I didn't take the normal one.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You did well. That cars section held you back.
yeah, that was probably the lowest score that I got on any of my exams. I was
Really?
scoring like maybe like 127, 128, and then I saw that. And of course I freaked out. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna retake it. But then in the pre-med hangout, people are like, no,
No,
you're
don't retake
crazy.
it. Yeah, don't do
Don't.
that. Good. I'm glad you didn't retake it. So stats not holding you back. We get into activities, and so let's take a look at activities here. Being a medical scribe, obviously great experience, and you did this through the application process, which is huge. Marking this as most meaningful, and I love just right off the bat, I can see storytelling here. Obviously, as a scribe, you don't need to be like, as a scribe, I take notes in the electronic medical record system for the doctor, and I keep perfect notes, whatever, right? So that's what a lot of people like to do. As you went through Application Academy, I tried to squash that as fast as possible from people like, I know what scribes do. Like, no, everyone knows what a scribe does. So we don't need to go there. So you get into kind of one of the most fulfilling aspects. So right off the bat, you're talking about yourself. You're talking about why this was meaningful to you, and then you get into patient stories. So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, great. And then some reflection, which is awesome. And then again, going into the most meaningful experience, getting into a patient story, and the longevity of you interacting with this patient, and then some regrowth, so some exciting times, and then just again the reflection here of looking forward to watching her condition and self-confidence continue to improve, which is great. So nice storytelling, nice and impactful, good reflections. So great job there. Research, so clinical research assistant, did it for a little bit of time, 120 hours. So kind of nice, right? It's your office that you worked. Seems like they also did some
Yeah, we had
research.
a completely separate. The other side of the building was a clinical research
Yeah,
department, so it was pretty easy.
that
Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. So you got to scrape off the lesions and then you go study them. So that's great.
yeah.
So impactful there. Dean's List Honor Society, just listing out just like this, perfectly fine. All you need to do. Senior thesis. So talk about why you ended up putting thesis on the application, because a lot of people, we call it kind of by an informal name of the extracurricular activities, although it's not really extracurricular activities. So talk about why
Right.
you ended up putting some curricular stuff on here.
Yeah, I think it was because uh, it was so different from any other like class experience I'd ever had.
Mm-hmm.
It was more, I mean, it's really research. I mean, a lot of it was just all self-guided and having to go through find articles by myself. So I tried to put that in to show like um, I know you always talk about not selling yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
like I've I just got some new skills from that I hadn't in any other class.
Okay.
I was kind of in between this because yeah, it was it was a graduation requirement and it was a course.
Yeah.
Um, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it because, you know, we got to pick whatever we wanted to.
Yeah.
And I was thinking if I put it in here and it comes up in my interviews, I could be able to talk about it a lot because it was like a topic I was interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, and reading it right off the bat, you talk about exercise impacts this. You're interested in exercise impacts disease processes, and then the next one is certified personal trainer, and so it ties into this kind of who you are as a person, which is great. So I think it's fine, right there. I say it often to the academy students, like there are no rules when it comes to the activity section. If you want to throw that in there, great. I don't think people are going to sit there and be mad and angry of like, why did you put this? It doesn't belong here. Right? There's always going to be that crotchety old dude that will do that, but for the most part, it's safe. And so paid employment, non-medical, clinical as a personal trainer. Again, just focusing on the nice little anecdote of one of your clients here, which is great. Student mentor, not medical, clinical, did it for a little bit of time, not a ton of hours. And being a student mentor, again, mentoring a student, a 7-year-old here. And the ability to go through this process and have this story here of interacting with this person is just showing who you are. It's showing the impact that you had. And ultimately, I think that's the goal of this process is I can step away from this application and see you and understand you a little bit better than I can someone saying, well, this experience taught me good communication skills. Like, okay. Like, so I think it was great to have this story, to see who you are, to see this interaction, I think really, really works well. Lab assistant, so got a good mix of research and clinical experiences and all kinds of fun stuff going throughout your activity section. As I peered into the microscope, just like a small little sentence like that, or part of a sentence, it's impactful because I can see you peering into the microscope. I can see that, which is awesome. Again, bouncing off of orange clusters. Again, just the writing style was really great here. Hobbies. I love hobbies on the activity section. And those hours add up, and just taking pictures. I love the this aspect here, right? My favorite involved a trip to New York City. So being able to share that one little tidbit somebody else who's reading this may also be a photog, or maybe they just love to travel and New York City is their favorite place to travel, and then you can bond and talk about New York City. Did hobbies come up at all in any of your interviews?
I'm trying to remember. One of them was an MMI, so it did not. I believe in the other ones it did. I can't remember. I have another one. I think I have cooking
Okay.
on there later. I can't remember which one they talked about. I want to say it was the photography and videography though, because it was my biggest one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, especially one of my interviews, like I swear we barely talked about like actual application stuff.
Yeah. That's
Um,
the perfect
we were
interview.
just talking. Yeah. It's my last one. I had a job. I worked for the football team, and the physician who was interviewing me was in the military, and we were just like talking about like the similarities between like what we went through
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes. Like it wasn't anything about like my grades or
No.
my like clinical
Yeah.
experiences or anything
What
like
was
that.
it? It was human bonding. Right.
Yeah.
I think people are very confused when I say that the best medical school interviews are just conversations about just nothing, right? Not necessarily nothing, but what you're passionate about, the passions that come through your application, if you let them. And that's why I push back so much on people who want to promote just constantly selling yourself in an application and only focusing your application on things that are related to medicine, and push this narrative of you being an amazing physician. I'm like, no, you need to push a narrative that you're a human being that has passions and interests that, yes, can involve and do involve medicine, and should involve lots of other things as well, because as humans, we are fascinating, complicated beings that have lots of passions, and that connection to another human being is ultimately what leads to acceptances, because you just bond, and it's not like, yes, I'm going to be a great physician because I once was a mentor for a 7-year-old with autism, and so I understand the needs of the disabled community. Right? It's like, no, that's not the goal of this process. Stop it. It's not something I get passionate about. All right, so looking more, right? Teaching, tutoring, teaching assistant. Again, the storytelling here, which is, as you went through Application Academy, it's a big part of the process of trying to help students understand why I think stories are important. And ultimately, you don't have to write stories, but why I think they're important is that human connection aspect. A lot of students for teaching, tutoring is like, as a tutor, I had to adjust my teaching styles to meet the needs of individual students, like just like a physician must adjust the needs to individual patients. I'm like, stop it, no. Anyway, so great job, just stories, and kind of the takeaway, right? Still keeping in touch there, or not? You are still keeping in touch even though you're no longer TA. Shadowing, so lots of shadowing hours, and you did a little combination of listing and a little bit of takeaway, which is perfect. No right, no wrong there. Volunteer football coach, which is a fun experience. Again, this is I tell this story all the time of a student who in a workshop that I was giving was like, my advisor told me that I should stop coaching girls soccer because it has nothing to do with medicine. I'm like, no, like you need to keep doing it because that's what you're passionate about. So I love that you have this on here. I love that you put it in, and I love that you were doing it because it just, again, it shows who you are. Great experience here, who you're impacting. Again, a story of interaction, focusing in on college football continues to excel. So the impact that you had on this person, for him to go and have impact moving forward, is awesome. Camp counselor. So obviously you have these experiences that show that you're the type of person who likes to connect with people, likes to mentor people, guide people. These types of things come through. They don't come across as you're just checking a box. They come across as you found activities that drive you, that light you up as a person. And then it comes through in your writing because you're trying to help the reader understand why it drives you, why you're passionate about those things, which is awesome. Instead of focusing on why they're going to help you be a doctor, you're just focused on showing why they're important to you, which is perfect. I love it. All right. And then intramural sports. So listing all of those different hours and participating in different sports and those relationships and all that fun stuff. And a big part of that in your life. So that's awesome. There's your cooking. Oh, there's the football equipment manager one. Lots and lots of hours. I think it was maybe your application at first where I've told this story before where I think in one of your submissions, I was like, I know who that person is. I'm like, that's a HIPAA violation. Was that yours?
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was funny. You just had too many details, too many specific details that I was like, Google search. Oh, yep, that was the person. That was funny. Random memory. All right. So looking again, I love hobbies, putting cooking on here. When I see something like that, the first thing I'm gonna scan for is what was the favorite thing that you love to cook? And right off the bat, you talk about it, right? My favorite part, holiday season, baking cookies with grandma. So that's awesome. So if I were someone who also liked Christmas cookies, we could talk about different amazing Christmas cookies that we both like. So that's great. And then focusing in on the story here of being on the equipment manager here for the football team and talking about this story here and just talking about what it was like to be part of a team and come together and win and all this fun stuff. It just paints this very passionate picture, which is awesome. And I think ultimately there's probably some aspect of this is like, I'm going to come at it from an angle that shows teamwork. And I know medicine is teamwork and that's fine without you going, this activity greatly increased my ability to be a good team player, which I know is important for medicine, right? There's that crossing the line that I think you just don't need. Just tell the story of why was this meaningful for you. So that's great. And then we get to the personal statement. Stepping through glass doors, University of Maryland Medical Center. My uncle led me to 2 massive glass elevators and the doctor's other staff whizzing by. You're stepping out onto the 8th floor, doors opening. So right off the bat, you have this like good storytelling, good showing in your writing. Was this hard for you to do, or were you a pretty good writer to begin with?
It was pretty hard. I'm not a great writer, honestly. It helped me. I'm always someone who like never fills the character count.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually that hard to squeeze everything down for all of these, because I know for some of the students it's really hard.
Yeah.
But this took so many iterations to get it to where it was.
Well,
yeah,
it worked.
I had a bunch of people who were good writers in my life, and with Application Academy, it was definitely a team effort.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you get in visiting your dad. So the one thing that I don't see right off the bat is just a kind of a timeline, or at least a timestamp. Like, how old were you when this happened? So trying to understand.
I think that might have been in it at some point, but I might have cut that out.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. So obviously dad is having some health issues, and you as a kid of some sort, I'm assuming because your uncle's the one guiding you around, so you're young enough.
I was actually in college for this.
Oh, okay.
So
you're older.
I should have put that somewhere. Yeah, it was when I was older.
Yeah. Okay. So you have this experience, and this is such a very common seed, typically, of health issues with parents, with family members, with yourself. Seeing your father, once muscular man, laid there like a skeleton. This person coming in, right? The physicians came in to check on him. They developed a relationship, seeing this where it's like, hey, there's no doubt my dad's going to make a recovery here. And then this impact of you going, hey, this is kind of cool. I want to explore this. So you then jump into some watering events here, jumping into patient experience and seeing the that impact of being with a patient, interacting with a patient, interacting with the doctor, and then kind of that callback to your dad's time in the hospital, simple conversations, personal connections, right? It's what medicine's all about. You in this moment being able to provide the emotional support versus you seeing the emotional support being provided, and then wanting to do more. So desire to be the person diagnosing, treating her, still forming a strong bond like we did. Right? It's so simple, but it's that easy, right? Here's this experience, and here's why it's making me want to be a doctor. And then we jump into another patient experience, and again, coming back down to treating Mary, simultaneously helping her overcome past trauma, motivated me to want to do the same for other patients in the future. So showing you impacting these people, showing the impact it had on you is ultimately what lets the people reading this go, okay, I understand. I got it. Now let's talk. You get to a conclusion area, immense positive impact physician can have, obviously, definitely compassionate care for your father, and then you being able to provide the same for others, hopefully in the future. And so one thing that's interesting here is you decided not to use any of your personal statement for a red flag for that institutional action. Was that decision just, you're like, I have a whole separate 1,300 characters, 1,325 characters. There's no need for it in my personal statement. Did that come up at all in conversation?
No, and I don't think I got any real feedback. I mean, I don't think I told anyone really in the application academy about the institutional action, but yeah, I had the separate essay, and then also, you always say that it's the why medicine question.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like if there's another section for it, that doesn't fit into the why medicine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I didn't really mention it at all in the personal statement.
Perfect. Got it. All right. That makes sense. So really strong personal statement. I get to the end. I'm like, got it. I understand why you're here, what you're doing here, what you want to do, which is awesome. You did mention applying to a lot of schools. Was that just you have the resources, so why not? Was that fear of the institutional action? A little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Fear of just not wanting to do it twice.
Yep.
Yeah. Basically all of the above.
Okay. And how did you pick your schools?
So first looking at mostly private schools. I think there's one, two, three, like four public schools on here, one of them being my state school. And the private schools I picked, I think had 50% or above out of state acceptance.
Yep.
And then a lot of it was I felt like I wanted to be in a city, and generally like on the East Coast, just because that's where I'm from. So those are pretty much the two big ones. I mean, based on my stats, you'll see a bunch of schools on here where I'm not even close to their averages, but
yeah,
you say that that's not what you're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah.
And didn't get any interviews there, but it's fine.
Yeah. But we don't know if it's because of the stats.
Yeah, exactly. Could have been that institutional action.
Yep.
So yeah, that was the big way that I selected everything.
Okay. Yeah, and that all makes perfect sense. So we get to the end. I'm like, great, good storytelling, good impact, good personal statement, great stats. The one red flag for the institutional action that you owned up to it. And sure, there are schools out there that like just automatic throw it in the circular recycle bin or the trash can, whatever the heck it's called. And ultimately, it only takes one school. You had multiple schools, still give you an opportunity to talk about it, to show who you are outside of that, and it worked for you. So what words of wisdom do you have for someone watching this, maybe with their own red flag on their application, trying to tell their story?
Don't try to hide it. Be transparent. Own up to it. say what you learned from it. Because even though it wasn't like malicious or anything on my part, I still threw in there what I learned from it. You
Yeah.
know, don't you always think before you act, was kind of what I put in there. Um, don't, you know, in general, just don't get bogged down with scores. Just do what makes you happy. And if you really want to be a physician, then that should include some clinical experience and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I barely did any actual clinical experience when I was in college.
Mm.
I that uh, football manager thing was 6,500 hours.
Yeah.
It was a full time job all 4 years, and my clinical experience was afterwards. I did a little bit of shadowing, but that didn't come up at all. They weren't like, "Oh, why didn't you do anything during
Yeah.
college?" You know, they saw that I still got it done and was able to explain
Yeah.
why the football was important to me. You know, it was a great opportunity, and there's no time in my life I would be able to do that. I took a gap year and was able to just work as an MA, and that's all I really needed.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I get the overthinking pre med club as I've coined the term now. The students like they're like, I didn't start clinical experience until I was a junior in college. Are they gonna be sure that I really want to be a doctor? I'm like, yeah, they're gonna doubt it, and unless you come out of the womb with a stethoscope in your hands, then you probably shouldn't apply to medical school, right? It's just like the things that we worry about just are not a concern for 99% of the medical schools out there.
And like I get it because I was in those shoes. I had those
Yep.
feelings, but then once you're on the other side, you're like, oh, it really wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, there's so many people in my class that are from all different walks of life. I mean, some people, you know, they're 30 years old and they're coming back to it. So
Yep.
it's not something that you have to, you know, start before you even like are 100% about it, you know.